Good morning, everybody. Welcome once again to BTL Bass Talk Live, where we're going to talk bass fishing and anything else that we want to talk about. Matthew, a very important day today. Good show. We're going to have Justin Lucas on. But the other thing is, dude, I'm going under the knife for the second time on the shoulder.
Second time on the shoulder.
Yeah.
I thought it was all dandy after the first time.
No, it's still jacked up, dude. So
this is a college baseball injury?
Yeah.
From 25.
High school, college. So
and you've just been living with it.
At 11:45 today, I'm going back under the knife.
Oh, today?
Today.
Do they put you under?
Yes.
Are you nervous?
No. I get the nerve block again.
What is
you remember what the nerve block?
Yeah.
It's where you can't.
Oh, that was the last time where your arm went numb and you were worried that the feeling wasn't going to ever come back in it. I remember Dave called. He's like, Jeffries is freaking out. He can't feel his arm.
Yeah. So nerve block again today at 11:45. So hopefully they will get stuff fixed. Second time. I don't like it. I'm not looking forward to it.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. So hopefully we will be discussing on Tuesday the fact that I am well on my way to recovery. Wow, what a day yesterday. We're going to talk about the one-on-one live lake challenge. We'll talk about that for a little bit, but the announcement from Bass, obviously the big story in the bass fishing world, on the decision to just say, it's canceled. We're not making it up. We're not doing anything else. And as expected, Matthew, you had about half the guys happy. You had about half the guys that were mad.
Just to recap, in case you've been living under a rock, last week the Elite Series at the Chesapeake Bay, which was the 8th Elite Series stop of the season, water came up massively. There was, I guess, some controversy as to whether to cancel it or not then, so they decided to postpone it late Wednesday night. Then they said they'd come out with rescheduling, which what it sounded like from all their releases that they were going to reschedule it.
Yeah.
And then they came out, we expected something Monday, nothing happened, and then they came out yesterday with the release, and actually in it said the decision to cancel was reached after discussions with BASS sponsors as well as consultations with the Elite Advisory Board, an 11-member panel of pros elected by their peers, and polling of the Elite Series field. So it is now a 8-stop regular season schedule. The regular season with the full 107 guys will conclude at the St. Lawrence River at the end of the month, and then the top 50 will then go to Lake Chateaugue for the AOY Championship. That's where you get your roughly top 40 for the Classic, and then the next 8 in that group, so like 40 through 48, will go on to the bracket challenge the following week. But really, they were screwed either way here, Mark. That's just what it comes down to. You reschedule.
They didn't have any choice.
You piss off a bunch of guys on the only available weekend that they would have had, which would have been Labor Day. So you piss off a bunch of guys there if you do it. I can't believe they rescheduled it. They don't reschedule it. You got a bunch of guys between that 50 and 80 range who were counting on 2 tournaments to make it up, and now they're pissed. So is that the saying? What, caught between a rock and a hard place?
Pretty much. They had no choice. That
I
was
agree.
Really
that's what we said before.
Decision that they can make based upon the way that the schedule was laying out. And here's the deal, dudes. We talk about these guys and how difficult it is to make it on the Elite Series and the FLW Tour. But bottom line is, if you don't catch them in the previous 7 events, is one tournament going to make a difference? Maybe.
Well, for that little group of guys.
Maybe.
Right.
Maybe. But if you would have caught them the previous 7 events, would you even be in this quandary?
And if you're in 45th to 50th place and you go tank on the Chesapeake, then you're totally out of it going into the St. Lawrence. Now at least those guys have a good shot going into the St. Lawrence. Yeah, they could have made up ground, but I mean, if you're in that spot, you've had some bad tournaments this year, so you could have lost ground even more and not had any shot. I think it all evens out in the wash. Everybody has the same number of points that they're chasing. I think it would have been a lot less fair if they had doubled the points like they were talking. If they had moved it to another fishery where certain guys would have had an advantage.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw some valid points, some guys saying, it's like they're waiting for the Chesapeake Bay. They struggle in certain events, but that's the type of,
it's
a
still
tidal
raining there.
Grass fishery. I'm just saying that they said that they could make points up more easily there, but I still think this is the most level even thing they could have done. You bring into the sponsors, the service crews, all of the anglers, rescheduling, the bass staff, the media, with the time frame that they're working with. We went through that time frame earlier. There was literally one weekend where nothing was going on. It was Labor Day weekend. Numerous guys had things planned. It was less than a month in advance. It just couldn't happen. So I think Bass did the right thing there from my perspective. Now, if I was in 51st place, I would have liked to have had it, but suck it up. And
let's talk numbers here just for a minute. When it really comes down to it, there are about 20 guys have no shot. Agree with that? Have no shot at making the top 50.
Yeah, I'd say there's about 30 guys, 40 guys now with just the one regular season remaining.
But realistically, you have 20 guys that have absolutely right now no shot.
Yeah, like Randy Howell's in 50th right now. He's got 419 points.
Well, then he's got a shot.
Right.
He's sitting at 50th. So what I'm saying
wait, I'll go down to what did I say he had? 419?
Yeah.
So let's just realistically say 350 points is 75th place. That's 75 points that you got to make up.
That would be hard.
25 guys.
Well, the point I was going to make is you have 20 guys that have no shot. You have 20 guys that have very little shot. Mm-hmm. All right, so that's 40. Those 20 guys that have very little shot, yes, maybe if they win, they get a top 5 finish, and then things happen to the remainder of the field.
Top 50, yeah.
And that's pretty much it. And then the other guys, hey, all they got to do is go out and perform at the St. Lawrence River, and they're going to be in the field of 50.
Mm-hmm. And you're also going to have guys who are affected as far as requalification for next year, too, as far as jumping up into that top 75. There's a bunch of guys who are grouped together in that where, I mean, obviously it's going to shake out differently now that there's only one regular season because they are just going to have that one shot to climb into the top 75 because they're not going to have a chance at Chesapeake.
Once again, you catch them in the first 7 events, it's not even a quandary for you.
I'm with you.
But do I understand their beef? I understand their beef, but the comeback is catch them in the first 7 and you don't have to worry about it.
I'm with you.
Agreed?
Agreed.
All right. By the way, we're going to have a special in-studio guest for the Justin Lucas interview. FLW touring professional Bradley Hallman is actually going to be sitting where you are doing the interview with me.
2-time FLW tour champion.
With Justin Lucas. So we're excited to have Brad.
Series champion.
And what?
Costa Series champion.
Grand Lake.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of Grand Lake, we were on Grand Lake yesterday. Actually, you were.
There was no winning going on Grand Lake yesterday.
Hey, yesterday was our very first one-on-one live Lake Challenge sponsored by Gene LaRue. And we learned a lot. We had 4 guys. They gave it their best effort. It was very, very difficult conditions. Bluebird skies, no wind. Nice day for August, but a horrible day for fishing.
And here's what we did. We gave them each an hour, and they had 1 hour, 60 minutes. They got selected at a different portion of the lake, each angler. They had 1 hour from the first cast to the last cast. If they hit 11 pounds, we wrote them a $2,500 check.
Yep.
And it was on live. You can go on to our YouTube channel, Bass Talk Live, watch all the replays,
Bass-O.
or go to Bass-O and get through it that way. The link at the top of the page. But it was, I don't think Jason Christ, I don't think Brad Hallman could have caught 11 pounds out there.
We even asked him. We said, Brad, do you think he would have surpassed the 11-pound mark? And he said, no.
No. It was rough. And I mean, those guys could fish.
Now, they probably could have done it in Wolf Creek because that's where all the fish are released.
Right,
maybe.
But Wolf was not one of the options.
Guess who's on the instant feedback?
Who's that?
Randall Flowers.
Randall. Now, there's a bunch of Randy Flowers impersonators out there.
Randall
Mark.
Flowers.
There's a bunch of impersonators out there. You don't know if it's the real one. They're popping up left and right.
I know. They're multiplying.
But Wes hooked me up with his Fayetteville, Arkansas firefighter shirt.
And that's nice.
Did you hear what I said to him during his? I said, you probably don't feel much pressure in the line of work that you're in when you're fishing. He's like, no, man, I just fish for fun.
That's a good point. That's a good point. So we learned a lot from the very first one. Yes, there will be a return of the one-on-one like challenge very soon. We're going to tweak it. We're going to make it better. We appreciate all the feedback that everybody has given, and there will be more information on how you can participate in the next one-on-one live challenge. Probably going to be at Grand Lake. Who knows? But I would if I was a betting man, I might say that there is a good possibility that it will be on Grand Lake again.
Jeff Booth had 3 spectators in spectator boats following him for his hour. You know how many spectators we had for the Swindle Strader one-on-one? 0.
I know. It's crazy. All right. The other thing is, too, I got to give it up to the guys. They were a little nervous in the beginning. Could you sense that a little bit, Matthew?
A little bit, but I mean, you're fishing for $2,500 and you're not used to a camera in your face and the whole 9 yards. And you were yelling through the headset. They could hear you setting it up. Was it Captain Rob who went first?
Yes.
He was listening, and I said, "You're about ready." He goes, "Oh boy." And they all could fish. I mean, it wasn't like you got guys who couldn't fish. I was in the back. I mean,
hey, by the way,
they could all fish.
Wes's boat, a vintage. What year was it? Do you remember what year it was?
It was a 1997 mint condition Bass Cat Pantera, original seats.
Immaculate.
The gel coat was sparkling, a little purple gel coat on it. I loved it. I was a fan of the Bass Cat Pantera.
So that's a 22-year-old boat.
Yeah, it looked like it was probably a year old. It had. I saw one little nick in the seat. That was it. Out of the entire boat, the carpet. I said, "Is this original carpet?" He goes, "Absolutely."
Wow. All right. Well, next week we will be venturing to Arkansas for the FLW Cup. We're going to get ready for that. Next week we'll have a show on Tuesday. We'll try to preview it as best as we can next week.
Tomorrow evening I'll post the odds that we went over on Tuesday. The fake real betting odds.
Well, they're real betting odds, but we're not taking...
There ain't nowhere to bet on them.
That's right. The wager window is not open. Of which I did see this, that the wagering in Oklahoma casinos for sports betting getting closer and closer now, man. It's going to happen, and it may happen as quick as 2019.
That's next year.
So we're going to see with the involvement, as I've mentioned before on this show, the involvement that the Cherokee tribe has in bass fishing, and obviously other things in eastern Oklahoma. We'll see if that's even a possibility that somebody's going to request your expertise there, Matthew, to set the line, possibly in sports books. I
would love for him decided to dive into the world of professional fishing, because then I might be able to make a living doing this.
Did you really say that?
That's why I was looking you directly in the eye when I said that. I was just joking.
I cannot believe he said that.
But I mean, don't people make money doing that? The guys who set the odds? Aren't they valuable resources to the betting world?
Absolutely. 100%. Hey, the other thing I watched last night, these dudes are amazing. And I was going to queue up the video, but I forgot about it. The World Badminton Championships were on. Have you seen those guys?
Oh, yeah.
It is incredible, the quickness that those guys... I don't know how they do it.
I mean, how they keep their eye on that shuttlecock.
Have no idea.
Amazing.
I would love to do play-by-play for those guys. Could you handle doing color commentary for the World Badminton Championships?
You just get to say shuttlecock a bunch of times.
That's kind of weird that you like to say that as many times as you do. So we'll leave it at that. All right.
We got what?
Jeez.
Lucas covered up. So the other thing I was looking at for the points is there's 11 guys within 100 points right now.
With 2 events
and
remaining.
There's basically now, instead of 250 points on the table, there's 150 or 157 or 8 points on the table.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, we failed to mention who won the MLF World Championship.
The Hack Attack.
Greg Hackney. Now he is...
literally won everything
except one thing. He has every major title in professional fishing except for one. And he's really the only guy that's got a legitimate shot right now. Mm-hmm. With the exception of maybe Amart.
So he has FLW Tour, Cup,
Angler of the Year, FLW win, Elite Series win,
Elite Series, Angler of the Year,
no Classic, and an MLF
World
Championship.
Wow.
Yeah, the only other guy that somewhat realistically has a shot is Aaron. Because did he not win FLW Angler of the Year?
Aaron did not. Kevin Van Dam did.
Van Dam's already
Van Dam, I don't think Van Dam's
But he hasn't won the cup.
Uh-uh.
And he's not going back to fish FLW.
And he'll probably win an MLF World Championship
Probably.
before it's all said and done. He's won an MLF. He's won everything on bass. So
Yeah.
I mean, if that's a burning desire at 50 years old for him to go win the Forest Wood Cup.
But I think Hackney is the only one, man. And he'll have every single box checked. Every single one. That's pretty
impressive.
Dude, he's a manster, is what I call him. Half man, half monster.
And what's interesting with him is you would think someone who's done, all that would be what you'd say incredibly versatile. Yeah. He's done a lot of it power fishing.
Yeah.
Up shallow, fishing his strengths. If you look how he's won all of his tournaments, with the exception of the Cup in Pittsburgh.
And you know where he started, don't you? You know where he grew up and
where's that?
Kind of Arkansas.
That's diverse fisheries there.
It wasn't Louisiana. So congratulations to him. And have you watched the championship yet?
No, I watched bits and pieces of it. I know I kind of made a push there, and
yeah, he finished second.
Yep. He didn't have a meltdown though, did he?
No. I don't think so.
Pretty mellow about it.
Yeah. So we'll see. All right, man. What else? I'm going to get this set up for Justin. What do you think?
I got nothing. I was just looking at it, and it'll be interesting to see what Lucas says, because he's in that position. He's only 10 points back, looking for his first Angler of the Year. Remember how upset he was last year after the year that he had, and said that's not going to happen again. And obviously, it hasn't happened again. He's back to his old form, heading up north, where he has caught him before and most likely will catch him again.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take a break, come back with Bradley Hallman and Justin Lucas live on the phone. Everybody, stay tuned. We'll be right back.
The most versatile fishing machine on Earth. Unparalleled resolution and clarity, with more agility, lightning speed, and brute strength. HDS Carbon takes rapid response performance and screen technology to an all-new level. Maximized power, maximized visibility. See Structure Scan 3D, new dual chirp sonar, new live network sonar, and more mapping options, all at the same time and faster than ever before. Pros depend on hydraulic jack plates to get the best out of their boats. Do what they do. Demand Atlas performance. Atlas gets you from the bottom to the top in less than 8 seconds, even with the big 4 strokes. And when you gotta turn right around and get that heavy load back up in rough water, Atlas's innovative design and American-made components will get you there with confidence.
I'm Mike Defo. Just look for yourself. There's an Atlas jack plate on just about every professional's boat.
The Atlas hydraulic jack plate. You can depend on it.
My rods look different because they are different. Every rod is built by the pros and for the pros. When you pick up a white Duckett fishing rod, you're getting a cutting-edge rod, one that's truly pro-driven, with the actions you need for every bait category you fish. I put my name on it. It's my promise to build you a great rod you can count on.
Duckett Fishing, Micro Magic, Macro Magic, or White Ice.
Try them. They work.
Fishing just got easier, and it didn't cost you a thing. Free feature upgrades from Lowrance. Fish Reveal delivers the best of chirp sonar and downscan imaging, all on one screen, and it's going to help you find more fish. High visibility color sonar take high contrast imaging to a whole new level. It delivers the absolute best views of structure. Fish like to hide there, but their hiding days are over. These features are ready to roll when you are. Just upgrade your HDS Carbon software.
Hey guys, Russ Lane, Bassmaster Elite Series Pro. Man, I am so excited to be joining the AFCO Pro staff. They got some really cool, innovative products to help you have a more enjoyable, comfortable day while you're out there on the water. Really stylish, great functional clothing. You're gonna love it. thing I'm most excited about, though, is AFCO has pledged to donate 10% of their total profits back to supporting the conservation of our fisheries. And I am all about supporting a company that's about supporting conservation so that we can enjoy our bass fishing for a long time. Check us out, AFCO.
Jacob Wheeler and Tommy Biffle have a lot in common.
Flat bill.
The perfect shape.
You gotta love some white tackle.
I know I have a spinning rod.
I love my hammer crawl.
Biffle bug.
Rigged
on a hardhead.
Well, they could be twins. Bifflebug, hammer crawl, hardhead, from Gene LaRue.
Let me help you, man.
Let me help that hat. Whoa. There you go. I already look better.
When I talk about Sunline, I think of one word: confidence.
Sunline FX2 is what I use for all of my frogging and flipping.
S61 braid, which braid plays a big part in fishing line.
Shooter, I'm going to use in those close quarter deals like flipping and pitching.
One of my favorite techniques in fishing the tournament trail is to fish offshore ledges.
We have taken the questions out of the equation.
Take my word for it. It works. It works, dude.
And we are back in studio on a Thursday. Mark Jeffries along with our special in-studio guest, Bradley Hallman. Bradley, hey man, you're welcome here anytime.
Well,
anytime.
So close to the BTL live studio, I have to get in from time to time.
Hey, just knock on the door. You can come in anytime. So appreciate you taking time out. And you're going to sit in on the interview. Obviously, you heard the discussion that Matt and I had to open the show about I don't know if it's a controversy, but the situation about eliminating one event, the Chesapeake Bay event, from the Bassmaster Elite Series schedule. And then, boom, they've got 2 events left. And a lot of impact on guys at the top, guys at the bottom. And with Justin currently sitting in second place in the Angler of the Year race, I thought it'd be a cool idea to have him on and get his take, have him talk about what his thoughts were on the cancellation, have him talk a little bit about his season, but more importantly, what he expects really during the next 2 events. So let's see if we can bring him in here. Justin, you there, man?
Yeah, you guys got me.
We got you. All right, man. Thanks for taking time out. I know very, very busy with obviously the occupation and what you have going on from a family perspective, but just a crazy couple of weeks here with the Chesapeake Bay situation. And right off the bat, man, what is your take? What are your thoughts about the decision that Bass made?
You know, I think I heard that the support for it, they sent out a survey, support for it was overwhelmingly, and I'm guessing like probably 80 to 90% in favor of not going back. I understand that we signed up for 9 tournaments at the beginning of the season, but we're also different than other sports in the fact that we're weather-related, like hardcore, you know, multiple days. A flood does not affect a football game. A flood does not affect anything else, a basketball game in an arena, whatever, even a golf match, they would be able to continue on, and have the golf tournament throughout the week that we were there. So we were seeing the effects of rain from the whole entire area, a radius of 300-400 miles, whatever. And, whether it was the right event or right decision to cancel it or not, I'm still on the fence. But Bass doesn't want any liability on them, and so I assume that that's where that decision came. And now the decision not to go back. I mean, dude, it's the end of the year. I see a lot of guys pissed off on social media, some anglers, and I understand. But what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You're talking a week-long event in the Northeast and you got to find a weekend, and there's only 2 weekends, and one's Labor Day weekend that would possibly work. I mean, there's so many moving parts to a tournament, so many people involved. It's not as easy as just moving it down the road or even finding more dates at the end of the year. You know, you just can't do that. So, I mean, dude, it's I don't really care.
Yeah.
To be honest, I don't care, because I'm a tidal water guy. That tournament could have been the deciding factor maybe for me and what's going to happen in the AOY thing. But it is what it is, dude.
Right.
Like, life, we move on, whatever. People are going to forget about it after the next couple tournaments. And, next season is a whole new season, and who cares?
I'm with you.
As long as we get our money back, our entry fees back, the biggest thing, Mark, is that there's 30 or 40 guys on the elites that are struggling financially, you know, and those guys, dude, that are struggling financially, if you ask them to be in a tournament for $3,500, that's a lot, or $9,500, excuse me, like $3,500 to $4,000, $4,500 in expenses, plus a $5,300 entry. If you're asking them to be $9,500 invested in one event, and then they miss a check and they're out $9,500 instead of the $1,500 or $2,000 they're going to be out, that's a huge toll on 30 or 40 guys.
Right. I agree. Hey, I'm curious, man. Were you on them at the Chesapeake Bay during practice, or were you struggling?
You know, it was standard practice for me. Like, had a couple bad days, had a couple or one decent day, and it was just kind of, you know, it was going to put things together as the tournament goes. I rarely do I look at a practice and go, man, that was a good practice. I was on them. Things just normally, you know, transpire during the tournament, and it was just another tournament. You know, I mean, I could have had another top 12. I mean, all 3 of the last top 12s, I've made 3 top 12s in a row. I never knew I was going to make a top 12 in any of them. So that's just fishing, man. Anybody that tells you that they know they're going to do that, they're full of crap, because fish swim, dude, and they don't know where they're swimming to all the time. Bradley, you know what I'm saying right there, dude.
That's right. Sometimes worst practices are best derbies, and sometimes it's the other way around.
That's pretty awesome there. All right, let's talk about...
It changes every day. It changes so much every day that you just don't know.
All right, let's talk about this year, Justin. Obviously, having from a total season effort, your best effort in your career, what is going on out there, and why such good performances this year compared to last?
I think that last year, dude, I got a little greedy, probably. Just, you know, I'd won a tournament in 15 and 16, and after you win, you really are like, oh, how can I, you know, it's like a drug. How can I get more of that, you know? But you can't force it to happen. And last year I was just fishing outside of my comfort zone, dude. And I got behind really quickly. 4 tournaments in a row, I missed a check. And I think I had only missed 4 in my entire Elite Series career to that point, and then I missed 4 in a row. But then I get 4 in a row, and I'm back in almost close to the Classic top 50 cut. And then the last tournament was just mediocre, and I finished 64th in the points. So it was just I look at it like, you know, I mean, I look at it and go, it's obviously possible that I could have a worse season than that. But I look at it and I go, all right, dude, that's as bad as you're going to do. You know that you're a well-rounded, versatile guy. That's as bad as you're going to do. This year, just get back to doing what you do and go out and find fish with techniques that I like to throw and style, you know, the style that I like to fish, and just let it happen and not force anything. And, dude, that's been the biggest change for sure, hands down. And just having fun and enjoying every time I'm on the water, enjoying practices, trying to find the fish, and just trying to get bit, dude. Like, I'm not trying to be some magical guy, you know, and that shows in my finishes. Like,
yeah,
it's nothing spectacular, but it's all just really, you know, really consistent, with the exception of Kentucky Lake. And I lost fish, and that one is the one that I look back on the season and I'm like, that's the one that's gonna really, you know, for some reason, dude, I don't know why. Like, I lost a 5-pounder at Sabine, and I don't know of any other fish I lost other than the 5-pounder at Sabine and like the 4 or 5 good ones I lost at Kentucky Lake. That's it. Like 4 or 5 fish all season, and they were in 2 tournaments, and one of them was the majority of them, and it just happens. Like, you know, I didn't do anything different, didn't change up rods, reels, hooks, anything, and I use that same stuff throughout other tournaments and do just fine. So it was just weird, dude. Sometimes fish bite weird, and you know, you just get a bad hook in them, they come off, whatever. And, you know, depending on how the rest of the season goes, that'll be the one tournament that I looked at that could have been the, you know, the deciding factor one way or the other. But I'm going to try and not even let that matter. You know, we got 1.5 tournaments left is what I'm telling people. And I'm only 10 points behind. And to me, that's a really good spot to be in with 160 points left, you know, throughout these next 2 tournaments.
Yeah, absolutely. I look at it, Justin, this is Bradley. Beginning when you started, you know, you go back and look at what all you've accomplished, man. Me from afar, it's very, very impressive, the things that you've done from when you started. I mean, basically, at your age, you were one of the first guys to really kind of lay that blueprint down as a co-angler, and you had just phenomenal success on the backside where you had like, what, 4 or 5 wins out of the back of the boat and then transferred to the front, made cups every single year, jumped over and got in the opens, year 13, 14, 2013 or 14, something like that, and then just rolled top 10 after top 10 in the opens, qualified for the elites, took them out west to your home state and welcomed them into California on the Delta, and got you one of them blue trophies, and got another blue trophy, and now we're looking at 2018, and you're, like you say, 10 points out of winning AOY, and you got 150 points available with 2 derbies left. It's just incredible, man.
Well, that means a lot, dude. I appreciate that. You know, just hearing that from another fisherman is really cool. But, dude, what you probably don't know is my worst tournament on the Opens in 2013 was at the Arkansas River in the Central Open. I fished the Centrals and the Northerns. And I locked down on day 1, and I'm fishing all these isolated pieces of wood on these flats. Yeah. You probably know where I'm going with this story.
That was good. That was definitely the pattern, man. Yeah.
About 10:45 or 11 a.m., I'm like, dude, why haven't I got a bite today? Like, I have not got a bite. What is going on? I shook fish off on every one of these spots. And come to find out, dude, I ended up seeing you. Yeah, I don't know. You probably had no idea it was me. I was a late boat number that day. You got down there before me. I saw you, and you're running the same stuff, and I'm like, he's hit every single one of these and caught every fish off of these. And at that point, I just threw my hands up, dude, and I'm like, yeah, well, I'm done, you know. And you had like 12 or 14 pounds that day, I think. Like, it was a good bag in September out there.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, this guy, who is this guy? And then, you know, to watch you win, too, man, you've won on spotted bass and down in Okeechobee, so just to hear that from you, man, I appreciate that very much. And, likewise, I think very highly of you and a guy that can win like that.
That's a funny story, because as long as we've both been doing this, I was actually thinking about it this morning when I was driving over, and I was thinking, man, I don't think we've ever even fished a derby like in the same place before. And, I mean, that's pretty uncommon for guys like us that have kind of traveled around and done as much as we've done. But
sure, yeah,
absolutely, man. You super success this year, super successful. Wish you all the luck in the world going forward. You're definitely in the position that you want to be in right now with 2 tournaments left for sure.
Yeah, I think I'd rather be where I'm at than even with the lead, to be honest. I just feel really comfortable, no pressure. It's, you know, I'm like, it'll either happen or it won't, no big deal, you know. But if I had the lead, I think that I would probably be a little bit more nervous, more phone calls, that kind of stuff. And I'm glad I'm not dealing with that.
Hey, Justin, obviously we have a lot of Oklahoma listeners, Arkansas, kind of the Four Corners area. Was it you that made the statement that if you could master fishing cur here in Oklahoma, that you would be dialed in from a national perspective, because cur in the Arkansas River here in Oklahoma has so much to offer and really gives you the capability to fine-tune your skills? Was it you that said that?
I think, you know, who told me that was, I'm pretty sure it was Christy. So it might have came from him, which obviously, if you look at that guy, and you guys know him well, he grew up, I think he grew up on that lake, and you see what he's done. So all I will say is I love fishing the Arkansas River. That place is an awesome fishery. Very underrated. Kerr Reservoir, very underrated place. And I spent all my practice down there for the Open this year, 3 days down there. And we had a weird weather system come through, east wind, all this kind of stuff. But it was setting up to be the possibility of a 22 to 25 pound bag somebody was going to catch down there in only 4 or 5 hours of fishing, you know. So I went down there my first stretch. I caught a 5.5, and I thought, here we go. You know, the weather's not going to affect them. And then I just never got any other bites doing that. Flipping in some holes in some grass where they were starting to spawn. But that place is very cool, dude. I hope that one day we have an elite tournament over on the Arkansas River. I would love to go there in the spring again. Bunch of little hidey hole type of places, and there's some dang good fish down there too.
They actually had one. We had one scheduled there. We actually practiced on it for the Elite Series in probably, 2010?
Yeah, that's the one they moved to Gibson.
So we spent the entire practice
Yeah, I
down
remember
there.
that.
We get a phone call on the second day of practice. We get a phone call at about 1 o'clock from BASS and says, hey, we've got an emergency meeting. We want you guys back in Muskogee. And the river tournament's going to be canceled because of flooding. And at the time, the water had actually flooded from Kansas and upstate. And so it wasn't really raining here. And they brought us in and they said, all right, you guys are going to have 1 day of practice. We're moving the event to Fort Gibson. And Biffle went home.
Wow.
Biffle went home and mowed his yard on his 1 day of practice.
I heard that. So that's a true story.
That is a true story.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's crazy. It is.
Crazy. Yeah.
All right, Justin, I have a question. With the implementation of the no information rule this year, do you think it worked? Do you think it is accomplishing what Bass wanted to accomplish implementing that rule?
I think that rule had to be put in place, right? Things are just they were getting out of control, and I think for the most part, 98%, that rule is effective. The only thing, is that there are guys, we have guys, and people know this, that push the gray area to the max. So what they're doing to try and get around it or gain, like I've heard people say, that they will read every rule and gain every advantage that they can. Those guys are going to do what they do, and whatever, man. Last year I was worried about, all kinds of crap like that, and now I just don't care, and especially with the no information rule. Like, what I love about it, Mark, is when I showed up at Oahe, when I showed up at Lake Martin, when I'm showing up at these places that guys either have never fished a tournament or they haven't been on in years, I feel like when I launch the boat, I'm, and everybody that launches a boat, you're not at a disadvantage to a guy that got better help than you. And that is a really, really cool feeling. And if you're having a bad practice, you're like, well, it's no big deal, because what are these guys going to do? It's not like they know where to go. They don't know what to do. We're all learning this, this process of what's going to go on in 2.5 days together. So I'm not going to say that's played in my favor, but it makes me feel really comfortable out there during practice.
Yeah, I totally get that. That's something that's all in all our minds all the time. A lot of the guys are, we like to just show up and do our own thing and really not have a conversation with anybody. But then sometimes there's always those guys that definitely like to read every rule and find everything they can to gain an advantage any way, shape, form, or fashion, and definitely dropping your boat.
You don't, and they know who they are, dude. So,
absolutely. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah,
whatever.
There's like five. There's 5 or 6 of them that'll show up. You've got a 50,000 acre lake, and 5 of them will show up the first morning on the exact same spot, 3 miles offshore. The first morning of practice, and you're like, how the hell does that happen?
Hey, all right. Another question, Justin, that's kind of related to the way that this game.
I like all your serious, real important questions here, Mark.
Well,
normally people are like, just these basic standard questions. These are good ones.
All right. At ICAST this year, I noticed the technology in everything. Lures, rods, reels, electronics. I mean, things are getting to the point now where it's almost that you just have to push a button and go catch a fish. I know that's an exaggeration, but the point I'm trying to make is professionally, have we reached a point where some technology really needs to be taken into consideration to make it a much more level playing field. And I'm going to use golf because I know you're familiar to golf. There are certain clubs that you just can't use on tour. All right? If we gotten to the point professionally now in this game that there should be certain electronics that you just can't use because it creates an unfair advantage if angler XYZ or John Smith or whoever, he doesn't have the resources to be able to afford these electronics or these $30 crankbaits or whatever it is. Have we reached that point where there needs to be a level playing field, or is it better just doing what we're doing?
Oh, that's a good question, dude. Like, I don't know, because I feel at our level, we need, every advantage that we can get in 2.5 days of practice to break down a lake and find fish. So it's really hard to say, dude. You would have, if you start taking away graphs and everything, like, you're going to have just a lot of shallow water tournaments showing back up, or shallow water is dominating. Like, if you said you can only have one graph on the console, one graph on the bow, that would really hurt my deep water, the way that I approach deep water fishing. And it would make me probably rethink that sometimes and probably consider fishing shallow in some tournaments where I've spent time idling around side imaging, for hours. I don't know, dude. It's really hard to say. I feel like at our level, maybe not. But the thing that I've always told people too is just because we have it doesn't mean you need it. Like, we have every little tool because we only have 2.5 days of practice, and this is how we make a living, right? So until there is something put out there that says you can only have X, Y, Z, we're going to load our boats up with everything. But you don't need, that's the great thing about a bass, is you don't need all that just to go out and catch fish and even compete really well in local tournaments, So we all started with, almost every guy I know started with older boats, older motors, all that stuff, even when the top of the line stuff was available. If you look back in time at that, every guy started with probably less than what was the best at that time. So I love my tools, dude. I can't, I would be kind of bummed if they said, like, you can only have 2 graphs or something. Like, I love my 360. That gives me an advantage over some guys at certain tournaments. Not all the time. Sometimes it hurts me because I'm looking at it too much and I need to just be fishing. And I don't know, dude. It's a great question. I don't know if there's a perfect answer for it. I don't know. People love MLF format, but I'll tell you the problem that I have with MLF format is that I'm not fishing in my boat and I'm having to use their electronics, their trolling motor, and it changes me as a fisherman.
Right.
And from what I'm used to, so, and then there's guys that are used to that equipment that right off the bat, they feel comfortable and they can do their thing. But I've learned really quickly that I have to change who I am as a fisherman in Major League Fishing selects, just because of the equipment that I'm allowed to use.
Right.
So I like having my own equipment, dude. I feel like I got the best of everything. And when you have that, it's probably a hard argument with what you're asking, to say it's good to change stuff.
All right, Bradley, you can chime in on this too, though, but let me kind of do a throwback, Justin. The whole situation with the multi-lure rig, the Alabama rig, at the highest level, they made a decision. No, we're not going to do this. It creates all kinds of different issues, right, from a competitive standpoint. Well, what you just said.
I think the big thing with that, though, is the Alabama rig just looks bad. From, like, if you look at, and I love throwing it. It's fun to throw. But I think if you look at it as a sport, it just looks like, to me, it doesn't look as bad as having 4 graphs and all these electronics. But when you're throwing, if the average person that's just turning into TV is like, he's throwing 5 hooks. Like, how is that? How is that fair? They're not going to go, he's got 4 fish finders on there. How is that fair? There's a difference to the average person. Which one of those has a more negative look to it, in my opinion?
Well, you bring up a good point. what the common fan looks at is they're looking up to you guys, and when they see 4 graphs on a boat, what are they going to run out and do, Bradley?
They got 4 and 5 graphs.
Exactly.
I saw a picture the other day of a guy over at Kentucky Lake that had 3 at the console all the way across.
That is insane. You know what I really enjoyed? One of the biggest things that I enjoyed this year, did you see what David Fritz was doing at the South Dakota stop?
Was he using his flasher?
Yes.
Well, I will say this for all
Mark,
new technology.
You just dated yourself right there.
I
bro.
know, man.
That wasn't good.
I know.
we actually, I mean, on our graphs now with all those big screens, we still on that right-hand side, we basically have a flasher pulled up because it's just it's the first thing that comes on the screen, and that's really all we're looking at, when we're actually fishing them live. But it's basically the same technology that was being used 35 years ago. It's just in a different format.
Yeah, Justin, I get it.
I'll tell you what I do think. I'll tell you what I do think is old. I think ledge fishing tournaments on the Tennessee River is getting old, and I think you're seeing that. You're seeing the effects of the carp and everything on Kentucky Lake, but just in general, dude, that has given deep water fishing and the graphs a worse look than anything. Because there's only so many spots they get on, people sharing spots, all this crap, But like at Oahe, I wouldn't have been able to find these untouched smallmouth on some of the spots that I found without that. And when you go to a new lake like that, it's really important to have it. But I think the Tennessee River, man, I am over post-spawn ledge tournaments on the Tennessee River. They are not as fun as they used to be.
I've thought that for years.
And
how
that's
much
my
it's
opinion.
changed. Well, you live there on Gunnersville, and I would pull up there, and the cars are parked. Not the boat ramp's not full. It's out past the road, and then it's 2 miles down the road are trailers parked of people down there, and they're out-of-state tags, and you honestly unload your boat, and I wonder, how do these fish keep biting? And you get out there, and you'll find a group of them on a school with current, and you're thinking, how in the world are these fish still eating baits?
Yeah, it's I don't know, man. The whole Tennessee River ledge fishing thing to me it's interesting the way it's changed in the last 7-8 years, and it's not as fun anymore. If I'm going to go post spawn ledge fishing on guys, I'm going to BTL, and I don't even want to be on. It's just not fun fishing anymore, So I don't know. I think we're seeing that kind of with Bass's schedule. They haven't done it in a few years now. Really gone. Kentucky Lake a few years ago was the last time they've done it. So hopefully we won't be worried about that anymore.
All right, a couple more questions, Justin, and we'll let you go. One, can you give us any insight with the announcement of the 2019 schedule? Can you give us any insight on the Columbia River?
Let's see. Imagine a way bigger Tennessee River that gets extremely windy, and it's pretty much all smallmouth dominated. So it is good fishing, a lot of numbers, not a lot of big smallmouth, but a lot of numbers. And I haven't fished there in 10 years or something. But the 2 co-angler tournaments I fished there, I won. So I'm looking forward to that tournament. That one I really believe is a kind of a big advantage, having fished there before. There's only like 6 or 7 of us that have probably fished there, maybe 8 or 9.
Is it a lock and dam situation where you have guys locking, or is it you going to be on one pool that's so big that?
Yeah, it can be. It can be a lock and dam situation, and there's a lot of water below the lock, but that whole area running down there, is really wind based. If the wind's blowing against that current, the problem is it flows east to west, and the wind, it's on the west coast out there, normally blows west to east. And so gotcha. it stacks that current up big time. And you're around a lot of wind, dude, when you're out there and there's kite surfing signs everywhere, like park your truck here, and there's little brown tourist signs, like there is a lot of wind there, man. So I think guys are going to be surprised at how rough it can get. But if we have good conditions, it should be a really good tournament.
I can't remember who it was. I think it was Dave that I was talking to. This might be the most drastic change that guys have to make in back-to-back events. I mean, think about your setup for everything that you're going to be doing in the Delta, and you go from the Delta to the Columbia River?
Well, Chesapeake Bay and St. Lawrence was about to be that way.
Yeah.
You know, same idea. But yeah, it's the thing that's crazy, dude, is how far. I really hope that Bass is going to change the practice period, because if you make a top 12 on Sunday at the Delta and practice starts Monday morning at Columbia River, it is a 12-and-a-half-hour drive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is really far. And the way I put it, I'm like, you guys have never had a tournament in Okeechobee, and then the very next day on Smith, next day practice starts on Smith Mountain Lake in Virginia. Like, give me a break. You know, this is ridiculous. You need to give guys a day to travel for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think they're going to do that. I actually talked to Dave Preck at Bass about that, and I think there will be an adjustment made. What they're going to do, I have no idea, but they're definitely going to try.
They need to do it at St. John's and Lanier, too. You know, that's, 7-8 hours apart from each other or something like that.
It is.
It's just not fair, man. You can't, I don't know. It's not fair to the guys that make a top 12. I don't think you can ask them to go, hey, tomorrow everybody else starts practice. We know you're going to be tired as hell. But good luck getting there, and good luck this next week,
Totally agree.
So,
I've seen it a little bit in the past where they had done it, and it's always hard, and it's not fair. I mean, making a top 12 and fishing a Sunday shouldn't penalize you for the next event.
Exactly.
Yeah, they did it to us at Bull Shoals going to Wheeler a couple of years ago.
Yep.
And, everybody that did good at Bull Shoals all sucked on Wheeler.
Yep.
For the most part. They barely made checks if they did all right.
They did it one year from Dardanelle to may have been Wheeler. Dardanelle to Wheeler. Did the same thing back to back. And it's a good
that's rough.
All right, man, last thing. I'm curious. I don't know if you can answer this, but Bradley, he put he was part of the 20 Feet Deep documentary that we did on the Gunnersville effect, because obviously he lives there.
Right.
But your neighbor, Kevin Hawk, is gone. Can you give us any insight on what went down on that? Did you talk to him? What happened, Justin?
Yeah, I talked to him. He's probably the smartest one out of most bass fishermen, dude. He took his money and got out, when he was still ahead, and he gave it a run. He gave it several years, but like he said, I'm not making that much money. I'm not making enough. And, he was from California. He was a really, really into just health, fitness, food, all that stuff. So he's in physical therapy school now and doing really well. He's going to be done here, I think, within the next 9-10 months, something like that. So I'm super happy. As long as he's happy, I am super happy for him. I know he's got a little aluminum boat, and he's fishing. He's got still tackle and everything, and he's fishing for fun and just loving it, enjoying it. And some guys, honestly, probably need to get that smart. If you're not making any money after 4 or 5 years, there might be something else you need to be doing. So you can't just keep doing this thing, bass fishing, chasing these tournaments forever and going in debt. I've always said that as soon as I start to lose money, I'm going to reevaluate things. And if I lose money a few years in a row, I'm going to have to find something else to do.
Well, right now, dude, you're on top. You're 10 points out of that just impressive title.
Killing it.
Well, we'll see, guys. Hopefully we're talking in October, like the beginning of October or into September, and things are even better. But, like I said earlier, they're fish, man. They swim. Any guy that tells you he knows he's going to catch them tomorrow is full of crap. So.
All right, man. Thanks for taking time out, and best of luck to you these last 2 events. And as always, man, we really appreciate you coming on the show. Hopefully I didn't throw too many fastballs high and hard at you.
No, I love it, man. Have me anytime. This is one of my favorite interviews to do. So anytime, Mark. You know that.
All right, cool. All right, take care, man. Be careful.
Best wishes.
All right, Bradley. We'll see you guys. Take care.
See ya. There you have it, Justin Lucas, and really one of my favorite guys on tour, Bradley.
Well, for all reason. I mean, I definitely can understand every interview and everything I've ever heard him do. He's always first class. Man, this guy's really got it going on. I mean, if you look at professional fishing and guys through their careers, and you just kind of see a stair step, and everything that he's done and everything that he's accomplished, that AOY would look to be the next block on top of his building block, that he's making. It would definitely fit in his resume without a doubt.
All right, man. Cup next week. Can you give us any insight on the Cup taking place at Washita in Hot Springs or wherever it is.
Hot. Washita, hot.
Yeah.
How many times have they been there now for the Cup? 4? 5?
Fourth time.
This will be the fourth time. So, you know, tournaments always play out different than what they think, but definitely going to see some schooling fish play. You're going to see some bank runners. Guys going to have the trolling motors on high, covering tons of water with top waters. What's the other big player there, Mark? Brush piles, probably?
Yeah.
I wonder how many guys put those in before the cutoff. Guys were over there, looked like beavers, I bet, didn't they?
I'm sure they did. Yeah. A lot of, cutting and dragging.
Cutting and dragging. They may have even brought some of their favorite wood from their home state or something.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, is there anything else that you want to talk about? I don't know if you want to get into just a little bit. We have a few minutes here about you're kind of making some changes going into 2019. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Nah, not too much.
Okay.
No, just
I thought I'd throw it out there and see if anything was going on.
You set me up. I'm not going to tee it off. No.
All right, it's good, folks. I'll say that much. There, I can give them a tease on that.
Yeah, just a little more interest. That's all it is. A little more interest in the game.
Any plan?
Fall fishing. Yeah, I do have some fall fishing plans. I think the wife's putting me on a plane tomorrow morning at like 3 a.m. or something crazy. We're going to go to Jamaica, get the little husband and wife vacation out of the way, have a good time, and enjoy down there. But when I get back, I've got some interest in the U.S. Open. Never been out there, never fished that. The Lake Mead thing looks really interesting to me.
So you're in. You're going to do it.
I'm going to do it.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm going to do it. You don't see many guys east of the Rocky Mountains travel out there. So like to go out there. And, of course, it'll be like, any event that you just go fish one of. We'll go out there and swing for it and see what happens. But looking really forward to going out to Lake Mead. Cool place.
It is definitely a very unique event. The format, the style, the area, the fishing. If you've never been on Mead before, obviously you've flown over it because everybody flies over it from Oklahoma when you go to Vegas. But a very, very cool place. I've told this story before. That is where I actually, and this was 18 years ago, I learned how to drop shot with Byron Velvick on that lake. And it was weird. It was the strangest thing I've ever seen, but the lake level was up. Obviously, it's down now, 150 feet or something like that. But we were actually drop shotting and sight fishing in the cedars.
Yes.
Which blew me away. That was the closest thing where you weren't actually looking at the graph. Obviously you were, but you were looking over at your drop shot because you could see 30, 40, 50 feet down, and you were actually sight fishing vertically. It was crazy. And then we caught huge, massive stripers on spooks, which was.
Did you catch them on the drop shot though? The bass?
Oh yeah,
you did.
Yeah.
All right.
And that was
what year?
Really,
what year do you think that was?
That was like 18, 19 years ago. Long time ago.
Do the math for me.
99.
99.
Yeah.
99. I was out there probably 2001 or 2. Larry Ray, my team partner, we fished here in Oklahoma together, and we'd gone out there taking our wives to Vegas on a trip. And I was like, man, if we're going to Vegas, dude, together, we're going to Lake Mead one day. And it was actually the first time that I'd ever drop shotted, and him also.
Really?
And that was around 2001 or 2, I believe. And we had a guy come pick us up and took us out there, Marcus Klaus, and it was a great time, man. It was the first time I'd ever seen it, and really a learning experience, like you say. But we did the same thing. We drop shotted in visual cedar trees that you could see, and it was almost like flipping.
It's weird. It was the weirdest thing I'd ever done. Anyway, the cool part about that place is getting to the lake. One of the cool things, dude, you think you're on Mars.
Absolutely.
You're out in the middle of nowhere. There is nothing out there. And then all of a sudden, poof, the lake.
And it's blue. Very clear.
So I'm happy for you, man. That's going to be a good deal. Billy Egan and his crew, they run an awesome event. Obviously, we've been out there the last 7-8 years. We do all the live weigh-ins for them, and we're actually going to test some new technology out there that we're utilizing with a lot of the one-on-one stuff. The problem is the cell service out there on Lake Mead, not the greatest.
No, not the greatest.
So we'll see.
Can't imagine why.
You're out in the middle of nowhere, man. You're in Mars.
That's right.
So that's awesome. You're going to have a good time out there, and good fishing too. I mean, it's kind of funny when the guys bring a limit weighing 9 pounds. That's massive.
Yeah.
And if you get into double digits out there, People are high-fiving you, going crazy, going nuts, and then if for some reason you get over 15, you just became a superstar.
Yeah. It's just a tournament that, you know, for years was always like a pinnacle. You know, I think Clun went out there and won it 2 or 3 times, and you know, it used to be a really big deal for guys even on the East Coast, and you just don't see the transformation now because we have so many things to choose from.
Yeah.
But it's definitely something I want in my bucket list.
Very cool. All right, man. You're welcome anytime. Thanks for coming in and sitting in for a little while on the Justin Lucas interview. Matthew, obviously, he will be back on Tuesday, and then possibly we're going to do a Tuesday-Wednesday show next week. So Matt will get a guest lined up for Tuesday, and then we'll work out what we're going to do on Wednesday. But many thanks to Justin Lucas for checking in with us, and we'll see what goes down at the St. Lawrence River, Bradley.
Looking forward to it.
All right, Cup coming up next week. Everybody be safe. Try and get out. Enjoy the cool temps in certain areas of the country. Otherwise, stay inside, stay cool, take care of your body. We will see you on Tuesday.